Welcome to the Property Investor Podcast. This podcast is designed for anyone who wants to excel in real estate investing. We'll help you build the direction and strategy necessary to thrive in property investing. I'm your host, Mark Rybarski. I'm one of Melbourne's leading property advisors. Before we get started, make sure you don't miss an episode. Click the subscribe button now. Today's topic is close to a lot of landlords' hearts, and it's pretty much around knowing when to call it a day with your current property manager. We look at the 6 signs, what to look out for, and we also go into the reasons why you need to keep up to date and make sure your property manager is doing the right thing. One of the biggest shocks a landlord can get, big news with no notice. So for example, your property's been trashed and the tenant's left with no notice. There's been a major issue with maintenance, like a leaking tile that's been dripping for months, maybe years, and it's caused a massive issue with the timber frame of the property. These kinds of things are kept at bay when you have a property manager that's doing their job and actually inspecting your property, providing detailed reports or video reports of how the property's living. So how are your tenants living with the property? How is the house holding together? Is there any future maintenance that they can see? Now, when a tenant starts a lease, your property manager should be doing an inspection at the 3-month mark, and thereafter every 6 months after that. Now, if you find that your property manager is missing out on inspections or hasn't done one for 12 months, that's major alarm bells ringing, because not only do you not know what's going on, you're also sending a message to the tenants that no one cares about the property, and you don't want to get into those grounds. You want to make sure that your tenant feels like the property is being cared for, and therefore it sets a bar and an expectation of how the property should be looked after by the tenant. So naturally, doing these inspections every 6 months, maintenance is going to come out of these inspections, and that's a good thing. You want your property manager to have a schedule to say, hey, look, we've spotted a little mark on the ceiling that looks like a bit of a leak. Let's monitor it and see how it looks in 6 months' time and in 12 months' time. For example, if it's getting moldy, if the spot's increasing, it could be something as simple as a cracked roof tile where it could just cost a couple $100 to fix. But if you ignore it, it could be a major renovation where you're repairing, plaster, painting whole rooms, repairing carpets, or replacing roof trusses. If your property manager is doing their job and they're inspecting the property, naturally out of those inspections there'll be a maintenance schedule that comes to life. The next point I want to talk about is communication. Your property manager should be in touch with you once every 6 months, no matter what. You should be getting a report, a phone call, having a conversation with regards to how the inspection went. So things like talking about the maintenance of the property. How is the tenant living in the property? How is the tenant being in the sense of reporting issues? And all this comes into one conversation at the end of their lease, whether or not to renew their lease for a further term. This is what bases a rental increase on. Should we keep this tenant's rent the same? Should we increase by $10 or $15 or $20 based on what's happening at the property? If your property manager is not communicating with you, if you haven't heard from your property manager in a couple of years, which is pretty common with a lot of landlords and property managers out there, I hear a lot of stories. But if this is you, this is probably a pretty serious alarm bell, and you want to make sure that you are having that contact and you do know what's going on at your place. If your property manager isn't doing their job, it most likely means that they're not communicating, they're not going out to your property doing their inspections, they're not building maintenance, and they don't know how your tenant is living in your house. Lastly, I want to talk about being wary of real estate agencies that have high staff turnover. Typically, they're real estate sales businesses where their main focus is selling homes rather than being property managers. Now, the most frustrating point of being a landlord is when your property manager doesn't have that or loses that history and that memory of what's gone on at your property over the last few years. If you've had a hard time with a certain type of tenant, if you've had a lot of maintenance that have come up, someone else comes in and they have no idea as to what's happened, and it's just a pretty frustrating experience for any landlord. On the flip side, you've also got a property manager that is not that experienced. If they're being replaced every 6 to 12 months. All of us have started new jobs and we know how long it takes to lower that learning curve, and 6 months is an absolute minimum. There's no difference with property management. Property management is a huge topic for anyone to take on, It's not simple, it's very complex. And this is where being a landlord, it can really cost you a lot of money. For example, you get a quote for an air conditioner repair or replacement, and the variation between quotes could be thousands of dollars. And that's no exaggeration. Now, a property manager has to know, hey, look, this is overpriced, this is a ridiculous quote, or this is a good value quote. Things like that are absolutely essential and just come hand in hand when you have experience and you've done the job for quite a while. With experience, you learn how to speak to people and you learn how to manage a tenant that has an issue, how to manage a landlord that could be a bit difficult when it comes to repairing something or willingly repairing something. And they have to be a people person as well. They have to know how to negotiate, communicate, and stay on top of every scenario that gets put forward to them. And that only comes with time and experience. So when you're picking a property manager, make sure they've been at the place for quite a while. And that's probably a really good sign of an agency that's struggling with their business structure. When you interview the property manager and ask how long they've been there for, and they've got the 6-month, 12-month story, that's probably a pretty good sign to maybe choose somebody else. So that's what we have to say about the signs of a bad property manager. For more information on real estate, on property management, check out our website at Property Managers Melbourne. You can get in touch with us there, you can leave your details or give us a call. For more podcasts, listen to propertyinvestorpodcast.com.au, and we've got a whole range of topics on buying property, on selling property, and property management as well. Thanks for listening.